This is Entertainment for Review, and I am back with yet another review of The Big Bang Theory. Today I'm going to be taking a look at The Big Bang Theory Season 3, Episode 3, The Gothowitz Deviation. Now, to start this episode off, Penny seems to immediately have gotten pretty comfortable in a relationship with Leonard. She's in Leonard and Sheldon's apartment in the morning, and she is dancing while making some breakfast, and this disturbs Sheldon and draws him out of his room. So first he's bothered by the music, then he's bothered by the fact that Penny is making the wrong breakfast.
Morning, Sheldon! Come dance with me.
No. As he points out that it's oatmeal day, but Penny is making French toast. When Leonard emerges from his room, Sheldon asks him why they're here and not at Penny's apartment. Leonard says it's because they broke Penny's bed, and Sheldon does not see how that is possible. However, it does make it seem like they're trying to be a little bit braggy, although with Sheldon, who's not going to pick up on it anyway. And we see Sheldon continues with his unflinchingly rigid nature, as although he does like the look of the French toast, he throws it in the trash because, as he said, it's oatmeal day. We next see Sheldon, Leonard, and Penny having dinner, and Penny is telling them some stories about her day at the Cheesecake Factory. That is boring Sheldon, and Leonard might not be that interested either, but at least he's acting as though he is, and he's pushing Sheldon to do the same, which Sheldon begrudgingly does at the end, very sarcastically. Penny offers to clear Sheldon's plate, and he offers her a chocolate, a very strange thing to do, and we know Sheldon's up to something here, and we'll get to that shortly. But first we get the reason for the title of this episode, The Gothowitz Deviation, and that's because Howard comes in dressed in goth clothes, and he says that him and Raj are going to a goth nightclub to try to hang with the night people and pick up a goth chick. They are both sporting fake tattoo sleeves to try to make themselves look cooler, and it's not working. They offer everybody else to come, and they all decline. Sheldon, no surprise, and really even Leonard and Penny, no surprise there. After they leave, Penny almost sits in Sheldon's spot, and then jumps out of it quickly and apologizes, to which Sheldon gives her another chocolate. He's definitely up to something here. We see Raj and Howard at the bar, trying to blend in with the gothic community, and they're pretty much debating how to do this. Raj is much more relaxed, but Howard is trying to put on a big facade, drinking vodka and cranberry juice because he thinks it looks like blood. They do meet two girls, Bethany and Sarah, and do successfully begin to strike up a conversation with them. But we'll see how that goes. Back at the apartment, Leonard, Sheldon, and Penny are watching an anime show, and Penny is asking questions, which begins to annoy Sheldon, so he notices that she's there a lot, and she says she'll quiet down, to which he offers her another chocolate. Then she gets a phone call, and after Sheldon makes an annoyed sound, she says she's going to take the call out in the hallway, to which Sheldon offers her yet another chocolate. And it's at this point that Leonard gets a little annoyed and says he's figured out what Sheldon's doing, and that's that he's trying to offer Penny positive reinforcement for good behaviors that he deems worthy of reward.
Using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
And Sheldon doesn't hide it. He says that he's really just trying to sand off the rough edges of Penny to make her being around him more tolerable, which just further highlights how little Sheldon really understands proper social etiquette. He thinks that he can run an experiment to change someone's personality and behaviors. And he doesn't see anything wrong with this. To him, this is just a science experiment, something he can do and should be able to do. Leonard is justifiably annoyed by this and says he needs to stop and that he cannot sand Penny. And so Sheldon gets a little annoyed with Leonard and sprays him with a water bottle, trying to give him some negative reinforcement for his bad behavior.
Bad, Leonard.
In Sheldon's mind. A hilarious moment, but Sheldon is lucky he doesn't get hit more than he does. Back at the bar, Raj and Howard are talking to the two women and trying to emphasize how dark and mysterious and gothic they are by saying everything they do is dark. And they discuss their jobs, trying to say that even their jobs in science are the dark sciences, to which the women want to know what that means. Turns out they both work at the Gap. The girls decide that this bar is boring and they want to go somewhere fun, and this is where things start to backfire on Raj and Howard as they end up at a tattoo parlor with these two women who are looking to get some new ink because they think that Raj and Howard have ink and would like to get more as well. Back at the apartment, Sheldon is still trying to convince Leonard to let him modify Penny's behavior, and Leonard is holding out that he can't. When Penny re-enters the room, she says something in a high-pitched voice, and Sheldon wants to lower the register of her voice, so he begins to ask her to repeat it while lowering his voice, and she seems to mimic the behavior, and he offers her a chocolate again, trying to reinforce the lower voice. So even though Sheldon's been forbidden at this point, he hasn't given up trying. At the tattoo shop, Howard seems to prepare to get a tattoo as he's laying on the table and trying to pick out what he's going to get. He's given some motivation by one of the girls. The other girl asks Raj what he's going to get, and Raj says with his luck hepatitis. As they're about to begin on Howard, he seems doomed from the start because as soon as the man touches him with some rubbing alcohol, he flinches.
That's just rubbing alcohol.
He flinches again when he puts the stencil on, and then leaps up off the table, changing his mind the minute the tattoo needle touches his skin. They come clean to the two girls and tell them that their tattoos are fake and that they are just some scientists and that they've been scamming them the whole night. The girls understandably get upset by this and choose to leave, thus ending Howard's great goth experiment. This is another one of Howard's many failed attempts to pick up women with very bad ideas. Wrapping up their evening, Sheldon says he's going to go to bed and asks them if they're going to be amorous to keep the noise levels down, and Penny says she will, and he throws her another chocolate. So Sheldon seems to be trying to continue his experiment here. As Leonard says they should prepare to go to bed, Penny says her new bed got delivered, and if Leonard comes over and puts it together, they could stay there instead. At first he says no, because that's a lot of work, but then she says, well, if they stay there, they won't have to be quiet, to which Leonard immediately says, let's go, and they leave the room. This leaves Sheldon noticing that Penny is obviously doing a similar behavior modification with Leonard, and he notes that it seems that sex is a better motivator than chocolate, and he wonders if anybody else has stumbled across this. Yes, Sheldon, they have. And finally, we end the episode with Raj and Howard driving home from their misadventures, and they are planning a fake story that they're going to tell everyone to make it seem like they had a wonderful, great, successful night. And even though they didn't, you can't keep their optimism down, as Howard immediately says, do you want to try a country western bar the next night? And Raj says yes, so off they go on another misadventure, presumably the next night. So this is a pretty decent episode, very funny and fun to watch. Let's break it down into the two segments that were going on at the same time. First, we have Leonard, Sheldon, and Penny, and we have Sheldon trying to adjust to the new relationship formed between Leonard and Penny that is throwing his normal routine and schedule off because it is introducing a new factor, and that's Penny being in their apartment even more than she was before. So what is he doing to try to cope with this? He is trying to, as we said, modify Penny's behavior through positive reinforcement. A messed up thing to do, although he's not doing it in a very harmful way, and despite Leonard's objections, he seems determined to push forward. It makes you wonder if this would have continued to work, but Sheldon's experiment does seem to end after this episode, as we don't hear about it again going forward. However, Sheldon's attempts to modify behavior of not only Penny, but everybody on the show does not end, as we clearly see him doing this going forward, always trying to modify people's behaviors to match his needs, and this is done with a much more brute force and determined way of just insisting that they do what he wants without any reward from him. Another thing to note is that we do see Leonard and Penny seemingly settling into their newfound relationship very easily. Might have hit a stumble right off the bat, but they are moving along very nicely now. Now let's look over at Raj and Howard in this episode. They have their own little story going on here as they're off to go try and pick up women. Now these ideas that they have to do this are always Howard's. They're bad ones. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he's willing to try just about anything. And Raj is just willing to go along for the ride, which is kind of what makes Raj the ultimate wingman. The problem is they're not trying to just be themselves and meet women that they can meet that way. Because their plan isn't a total failure. They do meet two women, they get them to go hang out with them, but it ends up putting them in a situation that they're not willing to follow through with, and thus failure. However, I do think that Raj might have followed through with it if Howard had, just because he is that willing to do things for his friends. All in all, this is a solid episode, and I would score it at a 7 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comment section, and please be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep an eye out for my next video coming soon.